Y News with Angelo Castro III, William Theo, and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. President Rodrigo Duterte finally declares Marawi City liberated from the hands of terrorists. Here's why from Victor Cosare.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hereby declare Marawi City liberated from the terrorist influence that marks the beginning of rehabilitation. Huwag na natin itong ulitin kailanman.
The burden of war seemed to have perished in the men's faces as they listened to the good news. After more than 4 months of heavy battle, the Philippine flag was again raised and the singing of the Philippine national anthem was again heard in the city of Marawi. At a school campus within the main battle area, President Rodrigo Duterte addressed the soldiers and policemen battling the Islamic State or IS-inspired terrorists. With full conviction, the government troopers simultaneously recited the Oath of Allegiance.
Ito ang tahanan ng ating lahi.
The president made the declaration a day after government troops killed terrorist leaders Isnilon Hapilon and Omar Maute, who both led the invasion of Marawi City. Mr. Duterte assures that the government will never allow a repeat of a similar crisis, noting that the troops were not able to immediately enter the city, which allowed the terrorists to store firearms there.
I will never again papayag ako na mag-ipon ng armas tapos gawain ng. Hindi na mangyayari yan. Government must have access to it. Paglagay ako ng kampo, either we live together in peace, pagkisama kayo sa Pilipino, o gira tayo. Walang problema, marami akong sundalo. Marami kaming bala.
Despite 160 deaths on the government side during the more than 4 months of clashes, the soldiers say they are happy since their hardship is finally bearing fruit.
Marami rin na lumuha, marami na sugatan. Pero that's part of our mission. Para po sa mga kapatid natin na Maranao, ito sana ay maging lesson learned na rin na hindi na maulit-ulit.
Even after the president's declaration of liberation, the military continues its operation in the strife-torn area to neutralize or capture the remaining terrorists and rescue other hostages. Based on the latest military figures, the enemy still holds hostage 22 individuals, and 30 members of the Maute ISIS terror group are still holed up in the city. But the military says the remaining terrorists are now demoralized because of the death of their leaders.
We will do mapping operations, no? Meaning we will make sure na wala na pong natitirang mga Maute ISIS at i-rescue po natin yung mga remaining hostages. And of course, we will make sure na wala nang stragglers, no, na maiwan. And then, of course, yung mga IEDs and unexploded ordnance.
Now that the war is over, the government faces a Herculean task of rebuilding Marawi City as the heavy battle left buildings and homes in total devastation.
Walang iwanan. Ipapwesto ko silang lahat. Wala nang hanap buhay, hindi niya makugutom. Mabuhay! Mabuhay! Mabuhay ang armed forces palipulit! Tatapang!
Victor Cosare, UNTV, News and Rescue, Marawi City.
It took the government 147 days to end the hostilities in Marawi City. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
On May 23, armed men later identified as members of the Maute terror group have taken over the Amay Pakpak Medical Center in Marawi City, Lanao del Sur, replacing the Philippine flag with a black flag supposedly representing the Islamic State or ISIS. The group has taken hostage some civilians, including a local priest, Chito Suganub. On the same day, President Rodrigo Duterte declared martial law in Mindanao and cut short his official visit in Moscow to return home. The next day, Duterte suspended the privilege of writ of habeas corpus, allowing warrantless arrests for those connected in the crisis while residents of Marawi evacuate. With a growing number of residents being displaced by the hostilities, Mr. Duterte approved the creation of a peace corridor to ensure the safety of civilians and humanitarian groups. But despite continuous efforts to rescue the civilians, the military said hundreds are still trapped. On June 5, Mr. Duterte announced a 100 million pesos bounty for the capture of Abu Sayyaf leader Isnilon Hapilon. The next day, Kayamora Maute, the father of the Maute brothers, was arrested in Davao City. Meanwhile, government forces recovered almost 80 million pesos in cash and checks in a recovered Maute hideout in Marawi City. 3 days after, the mother of the Maute brothers, Ominta or Farhana Maute, and several others were arrested in what they call a safe house in Lanao del Sur. Government troops recovered up to 250 million pesos worth of shabu, drug paraphernalia, and high-powered firearms in a house it believed to be a Maute group stronghold. The next day, Duterte visited Marawi for the first time to boost the troopers' morale. 2 days after, Congress granted the president's request to extend martial law in Mindanao until December 31, 2017. On August 27, the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology said Maute Patriarch Kayamora died in detention, which the government believed lowered the morale of the Maute leaders Abdullah and Omar Maute. On September 17, abducted priest Chito Suganub was rescued. On October 9, after multiple deadlines it has failed to meet, the military gave itself a new one, October 15, which obviously it missed. But a good news was heard when the following day, October 16, government forces killed Abu Sayyaf leader Isnilon Hapilon and Omar Maute, as Defense Chief Delfin Lorenzana confirmed. The war has cost the lives of 161 government troops and 47 civilians. It killed a total of 817 Maute fighters and displaced a total of 359,680 people. Hopefully, the figures will stop there, as today, October 17, President Duterte declares liberation of Marawi City. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Following the President's declaration of liberation of Marawi City, military operations against the terrorists still continues. Rosa Licoz is back to tell us why.
6 to 8 foreign terrorists are among the 20 to 30 terrorist members being run after to by the Armed Forces of the Philippines and the Philippine National Police in Marawi City. Most of these foreigners are Malaysians and Indonesians. AFP spokesperson Major General Restituto Padilla said the military believes among these foreigners is the Malaysian lecturer Dr. Mahmud Ahmad, who is the remaining high-value target in the group. Mahmud is said to be the financier of the terrorists who seized Marawi through $300,000 to $600,000 fund.
He was the one responsible for the direct linkage of Hapilon to the larger group of the Daesh. And it was he who provided the funding that was necessary to bankroll the siege of Marawi.
The Department of National Defense denied Mahmud replaced the slain Isnilon Hapilon as the new ISIS leader in Southeast Asia. Meanwhile, the battle area in Marawi is contained to around 80 buildings, while the remaining number of hostages of the terrorists is believed to be at 20. The government assures it will run after the remaining terrorist groups in Mindanao. Residents are not yet allowed to come back to their houses until the city is fully cleared from booby traps and other explosive devices left by the terrorists. Malacañang is appealing to the remaining enemies to surrender.
We call on all fighters to cease further resistance and violence and return to the road of peace. We commend our forces for their battlefield advances, now nearing total victory. This has laid a strong foundation for peace and recovery.
Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacañang.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines says the public should also cooperate with authorities in terms of fighting terrorism. Lea Ilagan will tell us why.
Authorities believe the responsibility of ensuring the security of its community in the country not only rests of the government as the threat of terrorism remains. This has been the statement of Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP spokesperson Major General Restituto Padilla following the end of the clashes in Marawi City. Padilla says the government and the public should continue to cooperate with each other.
Kinakailangan ng bawat mamamayan, hindi lamang pulis, sundalo, sino mang uniformado, ang nagbabantay sa kapaligiran natin.
Padilla adds that with the public's cooperation, the government can stop or prevent any attempts of terrorists or rebel to invade in any part of the country.
Kung sila'y may nakikitang bagong muka, nakahina-hinala ang galaw, o mga individual na nag-iiwan ng ano-anumang gamit sa mga kapaligiran nila o nagnanais na magsimula ng kaguluhan, magagawa natin ang paraan na ihinto ito at hindi payagan na mag-develop pa sa isang malawakang panggugulo.
The military official also explains attempts to sow violence would never happen if the public can report to the authorities everyone they see acting suspiciously.
Cutting and preempting an attempted disturbance in any area is a joint responsibility of every citizen in our country.
It can be recalled President Rodrigo Duterte had expressed dismay over some Maranaos for not immediately informing the military about the armed men who entered Marawi City. The president also warned of holding liable officials of the local government unit who would be proven to be involved in the Marawi siege and neglected their duties in protecting the city against terrorism. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Camp Aguinaldo.
Meanwhile, Vice President Leni Robredo calls on the government to lift the declaration of martial law in the entire region of Mindanao after today's announcement of liberation of Marawi City. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
Vice President Leni Robredo says she is not against the proclamation of martial law in Mindanao, especially since it was the Supreme Court itself that declared it constitutional. However, the Vice President believes the administration should lift the declaration of military rule in Mindanao and immediately begin the rehabilitation of strife-torn Marawi City.
Nung isinusulong pa lang ito, ang sabi nila until necessary lang. Sana sa lalong madaling panahon, ma-lift na ito kasi marami din yung nagre-reklamo na apektuhan yung turismo, yung hanap buhay. Maraming umaasa dito hanap buhay.
According to Vice President Robredo, the Office of the Vice President will help in the conduct of rehabilitation in the heavily damaged area. She notes many of their Angat Buhay partners have already expressed readiness to build infrastructures for the affected residents.
Marami na din kaming kausap na partners na willing to help magbigay ng school buildings, gamit sa paaralan, yung shelter kits para sa mga nawalan ng bahay. Marami nang nag-pledge. Lahat lang naghihintay para magkaroon ng clearance.
However, Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP spokesman Major General Restituto Padilla believes a consultation will take place first before the government releases a decision on the lifting of martial law in the entire Mindanao. Although the matter is a political concern, Padilla says the AFP will create recommendations regarding the lifting of the military rule in the region. Padilla also assures the public that the situation in every part of Mindanao will soon return to normal.
But there is a greater threat here that needs to be addressed, and the need for the maintenance of martial law in some parts is really important because of the network, the existence of the network of all these terrorist groups.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV, News and Rescue, Philippines.
Vice President, in line with the liberation of Marawi City, we have Major General Restituto Padilla Jr., the AFP spokesperson, live to tell us more about the plans of the government in line with the situation in Marawi. Yes, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, William.
Yes, sir. And congratulations on to the AFP and to everyone involved now that Marawi is basically free, sir.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.
And we'll make sure our troops receive those greetings.
Yes, sir. Sir, I have a question. Now that the senior leadership of the ISIS in the country has been neutralized, how near is the ARMM from achieving absolute peace in Marawi and the whole of Mindanao?
Well, the obtaining peace for the entirety of Mindanao is a responsibility not only of the armed forces but also of all the apparatus of our government, local, national, and every citizen. If we wish to keep the whole of Mindanao peaceful, and well secured, we have to share this responsibility. The armed forces, together with the police, will be tasked on securing or addressing any armed threat or any group that may want to destroy the peace. And this function has been performed, and you have seen it how in the last few months of the Marawi siege. And the armed forces has not been wanting in its action. And in order to maintain that, we need to still address whatever remains of these threat groups in other parts of Mindanao. I'm talking about their existence still in Holosulu, in Tawi-Tawi, in Basilan, in parts of Lanao, Maguindanao, and Cotabato. So unless we address the existence of these armed groups who still continue to be part of their alliance,
Yes, sir.
peace in the entirety of Mindanao would not come without a price. And hence, we need to work together on this.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And, sir, one more follow-up question. When will martial law be lifted?
Well, again, the issue of whether to lift or continue with martial law is a political decision. But as far as we are concerned, we still need it for the moment because we still have a very wide network supporting this group of terrorists, and we need to address that. And having martial law there as an enabler for many of the activities or actions that we need to take is a very helpful tool. The public and our citizens need not be worried. You have seen how the armed forces has been implementing martial law this past few months, and it has not been at the cost of the rights of many of our citizens. We have respected the rights of every citizen. In fact, we have implemented it not in the way that many have said during the beginning or prior to the declaration of martial law. It's a very far-fetched circumstance from the previous years where they say many abuses have been committed. So now you've seen your armed forces perform its role to the dot according to its mandate and with due respect to everyone. So again, martial law here is aimed at the elements that are out to destroy the peace, to break normalcy, and violate the rights of others because they put everyone in danger. But having martial law here will enable your armed forces, your police, and all the other security forces to do what needs to be done in order to keep everybody safe.
Okay, thank you, sir. And I think one of my companions has a question also for you, sir.
Good evening, General, and congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
I heard earlier in a report that mopping up operations are currently happening in Marawi City. And are there new timelines on how long this mopping up operations will take? And do you see yourself starting the rebuilding process even before the martial law declaration can be lifted?
Well, truth to tell, the rebuilding effort has already started even long before the cessation of hostilities is declared or the liberation was declared. In fact, at about the second month of the Marawi siege, our engineering elements were already in close contact with the local DPWH as well as the local government to start the groundwork for the temporary relocation areas. And in fact, many of our engineers are still there doing that part of building up these relocation areas. So we will continue to be a part of the interagency effort to do this as well as in the rebuilding. Now, you asked about
timelines, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, the timelines. Again, we are not offering any timelines on how soon or exactly what date this still remaining pocket of resistance will be addressed. But be assured that we're doing our part. We're doing our best to address the threats that are there, and most important of all is to rescue the remaining hostages who are still in the area.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. And that was Major General Restituto Padilla Jr., AFP spokesperson, live from Studio B. Thank you, sir, and congrats. Meanwhile, a group of drivers and operators in San Fernando, Pampanga showed force this morning in line with the second day of the nationwide transport strike. Leslie Longbowen will tell us why.
Panawagan lang po namin sa gobyerno, yung totoong phase out po ang gawin nila. Makikita naman po sa mga asosasyon namin, sa mga jeep, hindi naman po lahat mausok o mano. Alos 20 to 30% lang po yung mga mahinang sasakyan. 70 to 80% roadworthy naman.
A group of drivers and operators in San Fernando, Pampanga gathered this morning to express their side on the jeepney modernization program of the government. Today marked the second day of the nationwide transport strike. A driver for 30 years, June, joined the strike. He argues that the Department of Transportation's plan is a big challenge for them because they don't have the capacity to buy the new unit of jeepneys. For him, it is better if the government just help them rehabilitate their jeepneys instead of phasing them out.
Sa tulad po naming mga driver, wala naman po kami ibang hanap buhay kundi lang ang pamamasada. Kung kukunin pa sa amin ang mga unit namin ito, paano kami? Paano yung hanap buhay namin? Paano yung mga anak namin?
Unlike the transport strike yesterday, more jeepney drivers and operators joined the strike today.
Wala talaga masakyan talagang magtsatsaga ng pahirapan.
Nahihirapan syempre kasi lalo na mainit. Sana yung dati pa rin para hindi mahirapan sa paghintay.
Ang hirap. Ito nga katulad niya kakapagod, ikot ka ng ikot. Kailangan din naman ng jeep Ibalik. Hindi naman silang nahihirapan tao.
The No to Jeepney Phase Out Coalition says around 10,000 jeepneys took part in the strike. As an aid to commuters who were affected by the transport strike, the local government deployed vehicles for free ride. Leslie Longbowen, UNTV, News and Rescue, Philippines.
In today's conduct of the nationwide transport strike, the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board was able to record the plate numbers of 21 PUJs joining the protest. 16 have franchises while 5 others were expired. The LTFRB will summon the drivers to explain. Meanwhile, the LTFRB warns to suspend and revoke the franchise of drivers and operators who joined the 2-day transport strike.
Sa part ng LTFRB, yung may mga prangkisa, we will cancel franchises. Violation of public service law. If I'm not mistaken, this will be Section 20. When you instigate or you encourage other people to join mga ganitong klase.
Malacañang said President Rodrigo Duterte is open to dialogue with PUV drivers and operators who are against the government's plan of modernization. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte is ready to talk with the transport groups who are against the modernization program of public utility vehicles. This after the 2-day nationwide transport strike led by the pinagkaisang samahan ng mga tsuper at operator nationwide or Piston. Piston said they want to meet President Duterte to raise their concerns because of the negative effects the program may cause to jeepney drivers and operators. Presidential spokesperson Ernesto Abella says the president is open to grant this request.
This is something that this request can be advanced to the president, and the president is open to this sort of thing. Although I cannot speak for him regarding this matter specifically.
In March 2017, Malacañang said President Duterte assured certain labor groups he would grant a separate meeting with the jeepney strikers regarding the issue. However, Malacañang is not sure about the reason why this did not push through.
Hindi ko alam kung meron bang intention to be invited. I don't know the exact process that happened, but like I said, he may be open to that.
Meanwhile, Malacañang reiterated that the government is concerned with the welfare of the students, the reason why it declared 2-day suspension of classes due to nationwide transport strike. Malacañang lets the Department of Education and Commission on Higher Education to decide whether to hold makeup classes or not for the missed lessons. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacañang.
President Rodrigo Duterte has ordered all old jeepneys to be off the roads by next year. During his speech earlier in the Federalism Summit and PDP Laban O-taking in Camarines Sur, Duterte warns that if he still sees old models of jeepneys by January 1 next year, he will tow them all. He has given all jeepney drivers and operators a deadline until December 31 of this year to comply with the jeepney modernization program. The president emphasizes that if the government imposes an order, everyone should abide by it, especially if it concerns to protect public health and national interests. Several jeepney drivers are complaining against the proposed 800 pesos amount they have to pay daily for the purchase of modernized jeepney units. Here's why from Joanano.
Bong Nasul has been a driver-operator of jeepney for more than 2 decades now. In his everyday operation from 5 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon in the route of Guadalupe-Fort Bonifacio, he earns 1,700 pesos. But not all daily earnings go to him as he spends 600 pesos for the gasoline. With this, he takes home 1,100 pesos only for his family needs, like the daily expenses of his 2 children who are now in college, food and medicines. This is the reason why he is not in favor of the government's jeepney modernization program. Bong argues an ordinary jeepney driver and operator like him cannot handle the 800 pesos he has to pay daily for the purchase of a modernized jeepney unit. Paying the said amount has been the proposal of the government so ordinary jeepney drivers and operators could afford new models of jeepneys.
Ang sabi ko nga, yung boundary ng jeep ko 800 din. Ano matitira sa akin kung iuhulog ko lang yung boundary? Paano mabuhay yung pamilya ko? Pag nasira yung preno mo, yung brake banding, langis. Ang mahal na ng langis ngayon.
The Department of Transportation or DOTR explains it will not be difficult for the drivers to pay the said amount. The government vows to provide 80,000 pesos subsidy for the first 250 jeepney drivers. DOTR Undersecretary for Road Transport Tomas Orbo says once their vehicles are replaced by the new ones, many passengers will be encouraged to ride it and thus might result into the increase in their earnings. Orbos explains that drivers can save more in terms of paying for gasoline as the modern jeepneys use Euro 4 engine.
Yung bagong jeepney, you will have more passengers. In fact, from 16, aakyat ka ng 22. Mas fuel efficient ka na given na Euro 4 yan. Ang aming tinitignan dito, 43% savings on fuel consumption.
The DOTR also plans to create a cooperative that would help jeepney drivers in paying the modern jeepneys. DOTR also recommends that the cooperatives will give salaries to the jeepney drivers. However, for drivers like Bong,
yun ang tanong doon, magkano bang ipapasweldo sa driver para pumayag yung driver? Kahit sa akin, kung pasuswildin mo akong 1,000 isang araw, pwede na, payag na ako.
Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
Next on Y News. The PNP anti-kidnapping group readies a new witness in the kidnapping and killing of Korean businessman Jiek Ju.
A group of environmentalists opposes the government proposal to implement waste incineration in the country.
Tropical Depression Paulo intensifies into a severe tropical storm as it batters the Bicol region.
Y News will be right back. The anti-kidnapping group of the Philippine National Police is readying the new witnesses it will present in the case involving the kidnapping and killing of Korean businessman Jiek Ju. Monok Son tells us why.
Some policemen who were part of the group behind the kidnapping of Jiek Ju have expressed willingness to testify on the killing of the Korean national. According to PNP Anti-Kidnapping Group Director Glenn Dumlao, many should have been punished for the crime, but many of the suspects were able to set themselves free. Among them, Dumlao says, are the NBI operatives who were believed to be involved in the crime.
Ginagawa namin ng paraan para mahagip pa yung iba kasi tatawa-tawa lang yung iba dyan. Kung anong partisipasyon ng mga PNP suspects, ganun din naman sila.
According to Dumlao, he was able to talk to the wife of G.Ik Ju. Dumlao says the Korean's wife is dismayed over the slow pace of the case. The PNP admits having no strong evidence yet, but notes their new witness could provide a big help in the case. The AKG previously filed charges against some policemen and NBI operatives, but the cases were dismissed due to lack of evidence.
It is now on our part kung paano namin na ulit na makakuha para to give justice. Kasi palagay ko, yung mga nakulong na nandyan, nag-iisip na yan, di ba? Ba't kami lang?
Currently, the motion to post bail by SPO3 Ricky Santa Isabel and Police Superintendent Rafael Dumlao are still being heard in court. Mon Hocson, UNTV, News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre says the testimony given by John Paul Solano to the Senate could be used as evidence in the hazing case of Horacio Atio Castillo III. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
The Senate may release tomorrow the testimony of John Paul Solano, the principal suspect in the death of Horacio Atio Castillo III. Solano's statements should be confidential since it was given in an executive session with the senators. But the Senate last week adopted a resolution that will allow its release if Solano fails to submit a sworn affidavit during the preliminary investigation of the DOJ. Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre says this could be a big help to explain Atio's death in a suspected hazing incident.
Kung yun ay lalabas, then it will shed more light doon sa what really happened during the initiation rites of the Aegis Fraternity.
Aguirre further said the testimony could be used as evidence in the ongoing investigation. Solano is the one who brought Atio to the hospital where he was declared dead on arrival.
Since they decided to release it, mayroong legal basis for it. Otherwise, ba't nila lalabas yun without any legal basis kung hindi rin magiging admissible?
During the last hearing, Solano's lawyer asked the DOJ to strike the testimony he had given to Manila Police out from the records of the case, saying it was not properly subscribed to by his client. DOJ will resume preliminary investigation on the case next Tuesday. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV, News and Rescue, Department of Justice.
The prosecution panel of the Department of Justice will amend the charges filed against Senator Laila De Lima in relation to her alleged link to the illegal drug trading inside the New Bilibid prison. Roderick Mendoza will tell us why.
The Department of Justice will amend the illegal drug trading charges filed against Senator Laila De Lima before the Muntinlupa Regional Trial Court. Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre says the charge for violation of Section 5 of the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act is likely to be substituted with conspiracy to commit illegal drug trading under Section 26. In a decision last Tuesday, majority of the Supreme Court justices agreed that there is basis to try De Lima for conspiring to sell illegal drugs.
I heard na mag-a-amend sila. I don't know kung itutuloy nila yun, but it's actually the call of the National Prosecution Service.
Aguirre also replies to the dissenting opinion of Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio, who called the charges against De Lima as fake. Carpio says the essential elements of an illegal drug trading case are missing in the information filed by the DOJ.
Kailanman hindi naging fake yung kasong yan. Otherwise, we shouldn't have prosecuted it. And besides, it is a minority opinion. It's an opinion of one.
The Supreme Court has directed Judge Juanita Guerrero of the Muntinlupa RTC Branch 204 to proceed with De Lima's trial. But Aguirre says they need to wait first until the decision becomes final. Under the rules, De Lima can still seek a reconsideration of the Supreme Court's decision. Roderick Mendoza, UNTV, News and Rescue, Department of Justice.
Groups of environmentalists opposed to waste incineration in the country despite DENR's claim that it is seen as a solution to the country's waste problem. Here's why from Ray Pelayo.
Environmental groups in the country joined forces to call on the government to uphold the ban on the waste incineration.
No to incineration! Yes to clean air!
They claim such move poses threat to public health, especially to those living near the facility. They argue that it is better to just intensify the implementation of Republic Act 9003, which provides an ecological solid waste management program to include recycling.
Lahat po ng mga incinerator facilities worldwide ay kilala na nag-emit ng mga tinatawag natin itong mga cancer-causing chemicals, pati na rin yung mga iba pang mga heavy metals at toxic substances.
The Department of Environment and Natural Resources explained that in the past 17 years since RA 9003 was implemented, only 35% of the local government units complied, and so they moved to promote the waste-to-energy program. USEC Jonas Leones says some LGUs are now using technologies that converts waste to energy.
We're shooting two birds with one stone. If we employ to energy, we can address the garbage problem at the same time, contribute sa mga power generation natin.
DENR said the country has no incineration plant yet, but if they will be allowed to establish one, they are sure to adopt technologies that will prevent pollution. The agency cites countries that use such program like Singapore, Japan, and China.
Yung waste to energy na sabi natin, Ray, hindi gumagamit ng sunog talaga, yung apoy. So parang oven, parang microwave.
DENR clarifies that the national government will act as a regulatory body and no fund will be released in building waste-to-energy facilities. Instead, the cost of the project will be shouldered by the LGUs. Ray Pelayo, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Ombudsman Graft Busters intensifies practices in the 2 weeks ahead. Bernard Dadis will tell us why.
Maganda yung potential ng team, even though karamihan puro attorney, pero nakikita ko yung potential namin as a team, especially sa depensa.
Despite a loss from the DA Food Masters last Sunday, Ombudsman head coach Richard Alcantara believes his side still stands a chance in the League of Public Servants. Coach Richard adds the team will take advantage of the 2 weeks as they take on the NHA Builders on October 29.
Kasi kung ano may preparation, siguro kung yung preparation na ginawa namin dito, mas doble lang namin. First, yung consistency namin. Depensa, then sa opensa namin, medyo talagang magulo pa kami. Kailangan lahat in one page kami.
Attendance of players in practices is another challenge the Graft Busters are faced with.
Talagang wala pa kami masabi na one complete practice na lahat na handon, na lahat na naiintindi yung nangyayari. Siguro yun.
The Ombudsman Graft Busters is at the bottom of Group B with 0 game won and 2 games lost. Bernard Dadis, UNTV, News and Rescue, Philippines.
Coming up on Y News. The European Union imposes oil embargo on a blanket ban on all businesses with North Korea.
Portugal declares state of emergency as the country and neighboring Spain battle multiple wildfires.
And be amazed by the intricacies of British artistic artist Stephen Wiltshire's drawing of the New York City skyline.
More from Y News after this break.
A song thanking God for creating good parents is one of the entries in the grand finals of the A Song of Praise, or as of Year 6 in November. Leslie Langbowen will tell us why.
A Handsome Plan for Me, composed by Atienza and Noni Ramos.
New York City-based ASAP composer Noni Ramos considers a blessing having good parents, and to express gratitude to God, he wrote a praise song with the help of his friends P.A. Atienza and Nino Cristobal, who are also overseas Filipino workers in the United States.
Initially,
I wanted to write my mother a letter to thank her, to express how much I appreciate all her sacrifices, and it ended up to be this song.
Meanwhile, the song's interpreter Sam Mangubat likes the concept of Noni's composition entitled Carry On.
Ang ganda kasi very raw and simple, pero sobrang daling maintindihan. Hindi mo kailangang pag-isipan twice ano yung message ng song. Andun na agad. Pag kinanta mo, pag narinig mo, alam mo na agad yung sinasabi. So, very good.
Sam is now excited to share his talent in singing in the upcoming ASOP Grand Finals.
Iba yung pag nakanta mo siya na maganda and na-reach mo yung hearts nung nakikinig. Kasi ikaw yung bilang yung boses mo yung magagamit mo as an instrument ni Lord para, ma-lift up yung name niya. And,
The music video of the song Carry On was already done, which was taken from the historic tourist site Biak na Bato in Bulacan.
Carry on, I'll carry on.
Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Those are the reasons behind the news, October 17, 2017. Mangelo Castro III.
Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am William Theo.
And I'm Darlene Basingan, because we need to know.
We will always ask why. Thank you for watching
Why News.